right. Think we got it. Think we got it.
There he is. Love you, sweetheart.
All right. I had you.
Okay. Hey, how's it going?
What's going on, brother? How you doing?
Very well. All right. There's my co-host. He's back. What do you get to drink, buddy? What are you sipping on tonight?
Oh, it's nothing respectable. It's a Voodoo Ranger hard peach tea. It's chick drinks.
Chick drinks. All right, I like it. Well, dude, I'm even more chick.
It's 7%, so.
I'm drinking LaCroix right now.
LaCroix, well, that's even worse.
Mm-hmm.
I'm drinking coffee.
I like it, man. It's too late for me. I'm too. If I drink coffee right now, I won't sleep tonight.
Got you.
I can't even have a Coca-Cola this time of night.
That's the only way I can sleep. I need caffeine to go to sleep to wind down.
In my most wild days that I don't even recount anymore, but I used to do a line of Coke before I went to sleep.
Lord Jesus.
Okay. I've never been able to do that.
I know. I know it seems weird and it sounds like a lie, but I swear to you, I could do enough where I would be like, okay, now it's time for bed, and I would just go right to bed.
It's like a superhero feat in some way. Shape,
well, and that destroys your heart, yeah.
Right. Right, definitely counterproductive.
Okay. So I'm going to attempt to go live on Instagram for the first time.
All right.
So we're going to try to do that. We're also going to be live streaming to Rockfin and Rumble. I know how to do that.
Do you want me to join the live on Instagram visually and just turn my audio off so I'm over there too, or?
Oh, I don't know. I've never done it. I think our video is just gonna live stream there.
Okay, yeah, cool. Okay. Oh yeah. You're on StreamYard. Okay, got you. Yep, you're good to go.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's going to be an experiment. So I always ask 2 questions before we get started, and that is there anything you want to talk about tonight? Anything you don't want to talk about?
No, I'm pretty much I'm an open book for real. Yeah.
Awesome. And then last question I always ask is, do you have a hard out? Do you have a time you have to go by?
No, actually, I don't have a hard out. Not tonight. No.
Okay. We are probably going to keep it around an hour, hour 15, maybe an hour and a half. We're feeling crazy.
Got you.
And yeah, those are all the things. So I've got my pen, I got my paper ready. I'm ready to write down questions as I go. We don't really have questions planned typically.
Okay.
You were asking before, and we just kind of like to have the conversation flow naturally that way.
Gotcha. I'm shutting all my phones off. My fault. I'm listening to you.
More than a decade?
Okay, I'm off.
There we go. Yeah, man. I've been following your Instagram, I think, since the beginning. And, I really like your story a lot. It's really motivational. I think it's great for the young folks to hear. So I just want to have you on and have a conversation with you. Thomas has also been in the pokey for a little bit.
Okay.
So, but not that. Thomas, is it considered a real jail or it was like in the military?
Everyone that I talked to, the military confinement was worse than jail because you had to still do all the military shit. You had to get up early, do calisthenics, like everything was very strict. And people would be in overflow. They'd go to like the regular jail, or even like the Bexar County, and they'd come back being like, "Oh, it's great over there. You can sleep, you can watch, you can smoke in your cell." So like people treated going to like the normal pokey as sort of like a retreat from the military version.
Yeah, I'm a vet, and I heard stories for sure when guys were getting brought to the brig and all that. I can only imagine.
I didn't have to go to Leavenworth, but it was close. I went to Leavenworth Junior.
Oh yeah, you took it. You took a ride.
All right. Anyways, I don't need to charge my phone. That's fine. Okay. So that's it. And if you're ready, we're ready. We're gonna get started.
I'm ready. I'm ready to go.
Okay. We are gonna go live. Give me a second here. And okay. There we go.
Oh yes, we might be retarded. Realities are singing now. You know who we are. You know who we are. We might be retards. We are reality stars. Oh, Nate and Thomas, they're speaking truth. You know what we do. Yes, you know. The things we say not loud on YouTube, but we say it anyway. That's right. It's the Reality Czars podcast with Nate and Thomas, the paranoid motherfucking American. Come cackle with us, but be warned, it's gonna get real spicy. So buckle up for the truth, y'all. This is the Reality Czars. The Reality Czars. Oh, you know who we are. Oh, you know who we are. We might be retards. We are Reality Czars.
And we're live. Welcome, everybody. This is Reality Czars podcast, and we're host tonight, Nate and Thomas, the paranoid motherfucking American. Thomas, I can't hear you, buddy.
I said, watch your motherfucking mouth.
Oh, there we go. We're honored today. We're talking to Christopher Willers. What's up, brother?
Man, I'm glad to be here. Thank you guys for having me on. The intro was definitely catchy.
Yeah.
We're lucky we got Greta and AOC to do those spots for us before they blew up. We got them like right before they got popular.
Amazing work. Amazing work.
We even had the future president that talked about our intro there. So.
I voted yesterday. It was a unique experience for me as a felon and everything else yesterday, but I did vote. I was glad to be able to do that.
Dude, that's really cool. Are you so did you have to this is a real question. So did you have to do a certain stuff to get voting rights back? Is that a thing, right? Because people, did they lose their voting rights, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it depends. It's state to state. My experience was I didn't really know the process. I walked in there and tried to vote last election or whatever. And I felt like I almost got arrested. They were like, no, you can't, you got to go stand over here. And I was able to vote, but they had to put it inside of a special bag and then do whatever they did with it. It got counted in. And then this year...
The vote counts for half. You get half a vote.
Yeah, who knows? But this year, I was able to go right in, swipe my ID and go on in there. So it was pretty easy. But yeah, glad to be able to do it.
They freaked out because they were like, uh-oh, I think we already used him for a vote.
Right. I started, when the news came out and everything else that was going on, through the election, now that I'm actually grown and an adult and paying attention to things in the world, I was like, did they use my name at any given time? Was I in there?
Oh, hell yeah.
I tried to vote once. I'm a weirdo kind of anarchist, and I kind of refuse to vote because I feel like they're both trying to use and abuse you. But I tried to vote once, and I tried to vote Libertarian, and they didn't like my signature, and so they threw out my ballot.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, your signature was not up to par. You gotta have a certain level.
Anyways, so we're a very blue state, and it would not matter if I voted or not. It's gonna go to Kamala Harris, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's gone.
Part of it, man, I can't shake the feeling that voting is a humiliation ritual. It almost feels... It feels like my parents are as a 40-year-old, my parents are dropping me off at the mall, and they're like, go sit on Santa's lap. Make sure you tell Santa what you want for Christmas. I get that same feel from the whole process.
It's I felt like I was being herded yesterday. When I was in prison, they used to call for chow, and you had to walk down the boulevard with everybody in a line, and you went from station to... That's what I felt like yesterday, honestly. I almost did a TikTok about it. I didn't do it. I went another way, but yeah.
You might get arrested for that, right? You can't really...
Inside the booth, I don't think you could do it.
Yeah, you can't...
I think they got in trouble.
Yeah. I wasn't brave enough. I didn't want to go down. If I got ever sent... I'm never going back, but if it was it wouldn't be for that. There's no way. That'd be crazy. Yeah.
So, Christopher, this is the first time on our show. Why don't you tell our audience just a little bit about yourself and where they can find you and support you?
Man, yes. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here. My name is Christopher Life Willers. I am a social content creator. Currently over 100,000 followers on TikTok, over 80-some thousand on Instagram, and platform touched 3.6 million last month. And I'm glad
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, I'm glad. I hate
I don't like when people run off like their stats, but I do like to shout mine out because I talk about prison, I talk about mental health, I talk about substance abuse, I talk about suicidal ideation, I talk about all the stuff oftentimes people want to talk about but they don't talk about. And it's getting out there and it's working. And then outside of that, I'm a principal. Me and my wife own a vocational school, which a lot of people, it throws them off.
Dude,
Yeah,
that's really cool. I didn't know that. That's awesome. Yeah,
yeah,
shout out that, man.
yeah, man. It's I'm a principal, well, executive director, but we changed my title to make it less formal. But Last and Layers of Beauty Institute, and I founded a nonprofit, which we do intervention work, gang intervention, youth intervention, all that stuff. But before all that, in 2003, I got sentenced to 144 years. So I'm not even supposed to technically be here on this interview, or yeah. So,
Is
That's
that a
awesome,
vampire
man.
crime? 'Cause
huh?
that's the kind of sentence that would apply to like a vampire, right?
Well,
144 years.
yeah. Well, evidently, they must have mistaken me at the time. And unfortunately, what's crazy, I always tell people, um, it's Halloween time, and this is when I got sentenced to that time, around a few more days from now. And every time around this year, it gets eerie for not the reason. Not I'm not scared of the goons and God. I'm scared of like the judges and because my story, I got 144 years for a BB gun. Essentially, nobody got touched, and yeah, I don't know if we're gonna get into that story, but yeah, stuff that's
Yeah,
not.
I don't think it's a bad place to start actually, because that's how I heard your story. I found you on Instagram. I was just scrolling like through reels, and I saw your video, and that's what stuck with me. You were a young man, and you were hanging out with like a cousin or a friend, right? And it was just the wrong place, wrong time. You got caught up in some shit, and it's so easy to do because, dude, I can't tell you. I should have gone to prison. I've done some wild shit in my youth. I was a psycho. And I got really lucky. So there, but for the grace of God, I think I was sitting on the toilet 2 a.m. scrolling, watching your video, and I was like, God, that could have happened to me, And so it's one of these things. It's like I know that there's a lot of my 17-year-old son over there. He is a fucking psycho. He's calmed down a lot. Now he's doing great. But my God, sometimes I was like
Yeah.
up at night waiting, like shit, is the cop's gonna bring him home or something, So
Right.
So I don't know if you want to start with just like telling young people like this is how
Yeah.
easy it is to get in trouble and this is how easy it is to fucking not ruin your life, because I mean look, you've kind of come a long way, dude. You're married, you're doing great now, but
Whew. Yeah. I mean, that's why I get up here and every opportunity I have to tell my story, not so I can get, pity or sympathy, any of that. It's literally because I'm trying to pray to God somebody doesn't go down the same path I did. And then to my story, I think sometimes the type of individual that goes to prison gets stereotyped. And in my case, I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, mixed neighborhood, two parents. They didn't stay together, but they were great. I had a great father, great mother. I was in the active duty United States Air Force. I enlisted at 17. You just mentioned your son's 17. Like, you're old enough to go fight for your country, except so I was on a certain path, and then I just fucking just hit a moment, and it was like 30 seconds, right? And it happens because aside from me, before I get into, I know hundreds of guys that are sitting in prison for longer sentences that are great guys, and it might have been 2 seconds. Maybe it was alcohol, maybe it was PTSD, maybe I don't know what it was. For me, I was a young kid, young enough, 19, teenager still, frontal lobes not formed to what, 25, right?
yep.
And I went from being in the military. I did get into some trouble, right? Was fighting, but I never got arrested. Like, I'd never been to jail, prison, none of that. So I didn't know none of this stuff, right? My experience in the military, we were talking a little bit before we hopped on here, but I ended up getting a general discharge under honorable conditions, right? And part of that was I was this angry teenager that was pissed off because a few years back, like I said, good parents, but my parents got divorced. Then before that, if I went back further in time, I lost my first friend at 15, Frankie Mondia at 15. I can just, all these different triggering trauma points that I was going through, seeing shit growing up in the suburbs of Chicago that never got addressed. And I became this angry teenager. You know, somebody that would just didn't give a damn, and also thought I was invincible, like most young kids. I thought I had a reset button. Now I talk to kids. I wonder if they think Call of Duty's real life. You know, if they're gonna get respawned, as I say. But I got in the car one night with my cousin. We were at, I call it drinking with the devil. We're drinking one night, and he just tells me, he's like, "Man, we're gonna go stick this place up. All I need you to do is just take me and my homeboys. Everything's all good. Don't worry. Like, nobody's gonna get hurt. We got a BB gun. It's all good. Nobody." And the first couple times we're passing the bottle, I'm thinking he's just talking. We're joking. His homeboys show up. They're all older than me too by like 10 years, right? So I don't know. Like, there's a little bit of a pressure there you're the youngest cat in the room, right? And the more times the bottle went around, the more I became a little bit more brave, right? And the more I didn't want them to look at me like I was the soft one, you know, out the circle or whatever. And my cousin, man, they didn't have nothing going on for him, man. And he was just like, "Yo, I need you to give me a ride. You know, you gonna do it or not, blah, blah." And I said, finally, I was like, "Man, fuck it. We're drunk." And we go. And we came up with this $1 million idea. Well, they did, that we're gonna go up to this Chinese restaurant and we're gonna get $1 million from it. Of course, we didn't say $1 million, but in our minds, we were gonna get enough money. Went up there, and I mean, it was the scariest 10 minutes of my life. You know, driving there, I remember being on the way there. It was like I was transforming from this dude that was getting in trouble, but not really getting in trouble, to graduating to the big leagues. And the closer I got to, every time he told me, make a left-hand turn, go this way, the closer I got, man, it was, I was trying to muster up the courage. I wanted to call my grandmother, my mother, anybody, you know, just, yo, my cousin, you know, but I didn't do it. And before I knew it, we were outside. They jumped out. They were gone for maybe, you know, a minute or two. They came back. And when they came back, money was falling out their hands. They're screaming. One of my co-defendant, dude that would become my co-defendant, he dropped his handkerchief. He's screaming that as I'm driving away. I almost hit somebody. And that was it. That was the beginning of the end right there. You know. So
I feel myself in that situation. I am that young man as you're telling that story. It's wild, dude. I mean,
yeah.
I've been in very similar situations like that, where you're the youngest one out of the group. There's all the older guys. You got to prove yourself. You're trying to be tough, and then you're just talked into something you're in over your head, and you can't back out now. And
yeah,
God, man.
Peer pressure is real. I mean, maybe that, at least it was for me. And then on top of that, my young mind trying to justify the fact that it was a BB gun, so everything should be okay. Nobody's gonna get hurt. So even if we do get caught, whatever, like it's not gonna be that bad. What are they gonna do to us? It's not even a real weapon.
So it wasn't even you with the BB gun. It was just that whoever ran in the store had a BB gun.
I never got out the car, never touched the BB gun, never like. And that's the other part of the story that's scary. There was no accessory case out there. There was no nothing. But yeah, no, I never touched. It's still a weapon, I guess. I never touched it. Yeah, and nobody got physical. I gotta further reiterate, because people are always like, 144 years. You must have. No, look my name
That
up.
was going to be my next question, because man, it really sounds like they threw the book at you.
Yeah.
Was this public defender?
Oh, so all right. So man, I tell young kids all the time, especially the ones in the trenches, quote unquote. They're only your homeboys or your brother or gang or whatever until the detectives are throwing numbers at the both of you. And I'm gonna tell you another thing. Karma's real. Like it's eventually what you do is gonna come back to you sooner or later. I don't care how far down the line, it's gonna come at the weirdest of times. And about 2 weeks after that happened, I was paranoid, stressed out, but there was a sense of like relief. I was like, yo, I'm good. Like we made it. Like we're all right. But never again. No way. And my cousin had called me. He had called me like 2 times after that. He was like, yo, we're good. Don't worry about it. Let's go do something else. I was like, nah. So I had ignored his calls for probably like a week after that last time he tried to get me to take another ride with him. And this one particular day, he starts blowing up my phone, and it's abnormal the way he's doing it. So now I'm like, okay, I gotta answer. I gotta see what's going on. I answer the phone. He tells me to come to his house real quick, his apartment. So I go to his apartment, and he comes in. They start telling me what's going on. So basically, the detectives they got called to his apartment. The police, excuse me. The police from out there where we were at in Virginia randomly got called out there because there was a noise complaint and a child endangerment complaint. One of our co-defendants at future co-defendants moved in with him and his girlfriend and their baby, and the baby was crying. There was loud music, and one of the neighbors walked by the apartment, heard the baby crying, loud music, and smelled smoke in the air. They called the police. Police came, knocked on the door. They smelt the smoke. It gave them probable cause to do whatever they do. They ended up making the call, doing whatever they needed to do to enter the dwelling. They started searching. Baby was good. There was not. It was just a crying baby. They weren't being the most responsible parents or whatever. But they found like a bong. They found some smoke, whatever it was, and they also found a blue money bag on top of the kitchen counters or the kitchen cabinets. That for whatever reason, my cousin, his homeboy, who they never got rid of it. And that night they took it, but they didn't say anything of it. They were like, yo, they took it with whatever else they found. It didn't look right, and yo, that was it. Next thing you know, the two guys that had rode with me and my cousin, they ran first, and then my cousin disappeared, and I was the only one there, and I just knew it. I knew I was waiting for it to fall, and Christmas Eve, I'm at my grandmother's house, and yo, my grandmother's old school black lady, man. She came up hard in the South. She was a different type of woman. She used to make white people walk to the back of the house, whatever. Like she was just this mean, whatever. And nobody came to her house for no reason. Like it was just she was that lady on the block. Like nobody messed with this lady. And Christmas Eve, I see two older white dudes walk up to the front door in suits and trenches and all that, and they're knocking on the door, and I'm like, what the heck? I'm already paranoid now. I'm like, man, what the heck? I open the door, and the first thing one of the guys does, he holds up a picture of my cousin. My cousin had got arrested. He had went and tried to rob another restaurant or something, establishment. And he went in there with the BB gun or whatever, the fake pistol, whatever. And the restaurant, the staff, they beat him. They beat him and they hog-tied him. And they waited till the police got there. And the detective showed me that picture on Christmas Eve. And he's like, yo, we got your cousin. We're coming for you. If you run, make sure you go somewhere warm because we want to be able to take a vacation when we get you. And that was it. Like I knew, like at that point, it was just me in denial and me waiting for them to come back and get me because I knew I wasn't going to run at that point. Yeah.
Man, that's wild stuff. I mean, it's so one of them had to have given up your name, huh? One of your cousin's friends. How did they pin you?
Yeah, so when the first two co-defendants went on a run to Florida, they got picked up for loitering. They didn't have anywhere. They were homeless down there in Florida base. They didn't have any plan. They just took a bus, went. And they got picked up outside of a Walmart or whatever it was. And when they got picked up, they had been doing other stuff. My cousin too. They got picked up for one warrant somewhere in North Carolina, and then that was all. And then they just started talking. And the main one, all of them started running their mouth, by the way. The main one, though, I ended up running into face-to-face in prison a few years later. But what happened was about maybe a month after that encounter with the detectives, they were like stalking my girlfriend, harassing me, sitting outside her job. Because I told them, I was like, when they walking away, I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not going anywhere. And I wasn't, because I didn't have anywhere to go. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't even thinking like that. I was still trying to figure my way out. And sure enough, I got off work one day and came back to my grandmother's where I was staying, and she just starts flipping out. She's like, "Yo, the cops were here. What did you do? What's going on?" Da 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 da. Da. And I just looked at my mom, who I had picked up from work too and brought back with me, and I was like, "Mom, just take me to the police station. Like, I gotta go." And she didn't know. My mom didn't know, because up until this point, I got in trouble, like I said, but not this type of trouble. We never had to go to the police station.
So did you end up turning yourself in?
I did. I turned myself in. I walked up to the desk and I was like, "Yo, my name's Chris Willers. I'm pretty sure the police were looking for me earlier." And the detectives, the same two detectives, came out from behind the desk and they were just like, "Put your hands behind your back." My mom started screaming. She didn't know what was going on. And I just remember like the most traumatic experience of my whole prison sentence. It wasn't when I got sentenced or none of it. It was my mother was screaming like, "Let me hug my son, let me hug my son," and they was like, "Nah, like he's a dangerous, criminal, you know." And they pulled me back there. They brought me into the interrogation room immediately, and they let me sit for about 30 minutes. And I remember I was like, "Damn," like, because I don't know the process of being arrested. I don't know what's going on.
They want to let you stew a little bit, huh? They want to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Or they want to like be able to watch and just get any kind of like hints they got, and like how nervous are you? Are you playing it cool? So now they've got some element of surprise, whereas you're just sitting there waiting for something to happen to you.
Yeah, and I mean, and they were waiting for that fear to build up too,
Hmm.
because when they walked in, immediately they extended the olive branch, and I remember the detective sat down, clear as day. The other one sat to his right hand side, and they sat across, and he just slides his folder over. He's like, "Look," he's like, "Detectives," he's like, "What time is it?" And the other detective's like, "Man, it's 5:15." And he looked at me, and said, "What time does your mama cook dinner?" And I was like, I was mad. I was like, I ain't want to, you know what I'm saying? I'm not answering. He's like, "No, seriously." But the way he answered, I was like, maybe he legit, like, why is he legitimately asking me? And I said, "I don't know, probably like 6:30." Because I felt like he was giving me the opportunity to go home. I felt like it was that type of question. I was
No,
like,
hell yeah.
so when he said that and I said that, he said, "Well, do you want to go home?" I said, "Yeah, I want to go home." Yeah. He said, "Well, because if you don't go home right now, you're going to be facing 6 life sentences plus. We're going to get you for 6 robberies. Each one of them carries 5 to life. Then we're going to give you 6 conspiracies. Each one of those carries 10. Then we're going to give you 6 weapons charges. The first one's 3. Each one after that is 5 years." He said, "How much time is that?" I said, "I don't know. I can't add all that up." I said, "But life is life." He said, "Do you want to go home?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, that's all you got to do." He said, "Sign this paper and make sure you're here on this date so you can testify against your cousin and his crew. We know you're the youngest one. You just got out the military. You got into a little trouble there, but you got a clean record. You can get yourself a way out." And I looked at him, and it was like 3 seconds later, I was like, "Nah, I'm good." I was like, he looked at me, and he paused. He looked at the other detective, and it was kind of like he was let down, you know. And he looked back at me. He said, "Listen, man." He said, "I need you to understand." He said, "I got a son your age, and I wish that if he ever found himself in this situation, the guy across from him would be giving him the." I said, and he said, "This is legitimate. You can go home now. If you don't go home, we're gonna make sure." He said, "Better yet, I'm gonna make sure you don't go home at all." And I looked at him in my mind. I'm thinking I can beat this somehow, but more importantly, because of the culture, what you're taught, and it's my family, I don't want to cause any more division, which was really the biggest underlying current of it all. I said, "No, I'm good." And he looked at me. He said, "Man, you just signed your certificate." And he ripped it up. And he said, "Come on." He looked at the other guy. He said, "Come on." And they left me there for about 4 or 5 more hours, I swear, like just sitting there. And I remember just freezing in there, and just finally the regular sheriffs or whatever came, and they got me and brought me to booking and officially like printed me, read me my rights, all that, you know. and that was it. I went to the hole. They bring you to the jail. I went straight to the hole. And the part I was gonna mention is the dude that one of the guys that went to Florida. Basically, he when he started running his mouth, they were recording him. So when I'm in the hole, all of a sudden my tray slot opened up because they put you in a hole before they put you in general population. They got to classify you, and the slot opens up. I'm thinking it's my tray getting ready to get passed through there, and instead I see one of those old school tape recorders that they still had just sit down on a tray slot. And sure enough, I seen somebody's hand just click play, and it was one of my homeboys or my cousin's homeboys co-defendants. It was just not only, and I tell people this, and it's I don't at this point it doesn't even matter if people believe me because it's too late now. But not only was he throwing stuff on like that night where I did participate, which I would have easily if it came down to it, say, yo, this is what I did. Yo, you know what I'm saying? I hold myself at that point, but he put other stuff on me. And the reason I ended up getting pulled into other things was because I turned that deal down. And once I didn't cooperate, I didn't agree, it wouldn't have mattered what was said on the other side. Because at that point, my word was looked at as clear opposition. So yeah, that was it.
Do you ever think about that? Do you ever wish you would? I mean, I know that's rough, man. To have to sit there and snitch on your cousin. I mean, that's. Do you ever wish you had signed that paper? Or do you ever think about that?
Yeah, I think about it all the time, right? So like the poetic philosophical answer to it all is that I believe you aren't who you are. You won't be where you're at unless you go through what you went through. Your journey is what defines you. So man, in some way, shape, or form, though I was gone for 17 years of my life, um, I'm doing pretty good as a human being. Like I'm contributing to society, and like I have a purpose, and I'm building a legacy, and I got a family, and dog. And I don't know if I would have survived 17 years of freedom because I was that angry kid, and if I would have got through that moment, knowing me, looking back, I probably would have thought I could have did something else. Even though I was scared in that moment, like I just know it would have kept festering, which is why I'm a big mental health advocate and I deal with trauma and all this stuff now because I wouldn't have got any treatment or any of that. There wouldn't have been any interruption, and there was an interruption. So,
So what
Yeah,
happened to the cousin?
oh, well, the cousin,
yeah. What happened?
yeah, because the cousin he had committed other crimes. He ended up getting a
The
total.
ones that he wasn't able to put on you?
Yeah. Well, you know what? In all fairness, if there's a way to measure it, even though if you run your mouth, you run your mouth. He didn't run his mouth as much as everybody else did. But he had other crimes going on, especially including the one where he got hogtied, and he ended up getting 98 years total. So he's still in there to this day.
That's what I was going to ask. He's still alive. He's still in there.
He's still alive, man. He's still alive. We recently spoke, via email and took that first step. Took years, you know what I'm saying? But I'm a man now. That's what I always tell people. I look at the board differently now.
Like, as much as I hate that, I feel the same exact way that, like, certain things that I did, I had to go through it to be the man that I am today. And, yeah, man, that's fucking rough.
If you had snitched on your cousin, and I guess I don't even want to use the word snitch, right? But like if you had taken that deal that they offered you and cooperated, would you? And I know it's like that's a different lifetime, and that
Yeah.
you wouldn't have ended up where you're at. But even looking back, would you regret that? Do you think you would like 20 years later be like, damn, man, I really sold him out?
Yeah, I mean, the full transparent answer to that question is like in hindsight, they told on me. So damn, I wouldn't sit in there in due time for some guys that would end up rolling on me, right? But it would at the end of the day, it would have been I would have had to deal with my own thoughts as a man. Um, Man, I take losses present day because I don't agree with something on that side or you know what I'm saying? So I'm one of those guys I did and maybe I took that after my father or whatever, but I'm big on principles and morals, and it's not about what other people do. It's about what I believe in and not responding, rather than setting the tone. So peace of mind, I probably would have been disturbed. I wouldn't have had the respect for myself. I don't think that I would have.
Right.
You
And
took the honorable route, and that was something. I think that's in the Bible too, or at least my mom used to tell me that there's no honor among thieves.
I was just like,
right?
don't snitch on me, Nate.
No, but she would tell me that she was like, "There's no honor among thieves," and so she's like, "If you're hanging out with those type of guys, they are gonna fucking rule on you, like that sort of thing."
yeah,
It's like
it
it's one of those things, man. And you took the honorable route, and God, man, you paid for it.
paid for
But
it. I paid for it, but man, I paid for it. I went through some rough times in prison, but like I said, I was blessed. I was blessed through. I had some opportunities even behind the wall to do some things that set me up, for what I'm doing now. And maybe that's because I always had my respect intact, and I was able to
yeah.
move in there a different way. But yeah,
So I have a few questions for you. One is, you said that you ran into one of those guys, one of your cousin's friends. How did that interaction go? That
so
was years later, huh?
yeah, not well. It was early enough in the bid where it could have went left. Um, so I started my prison sentence off after receiving. I got sent to Sussex 2, which is a level 4, and then I worked my way down to a level 2, and then I ran my time back up and got sent to a level 4 back to Sussex 2. And Sussex 2 is they called it Saigon. And back then, and I can only assume now, it was a no hands rule. If you get into altercation with somebody, there's no fighting. We're not doing that. You're gonna have a piece of that fence, window frame, something. So, so everybody's armed up there in that in the jungle, right? And I'm sitting there this one day. I had got sent back on this camp. This is my second time up there, so I know a lot of the guards. I know a lot of the guys that's up there because this camp, the majority of lifers, you got to do at least 20 to get up off there if you got a life sentence. When I got sent there with 19 years, I was considered a short timer. So when I get up there, the COs are even like, "Yo, what up, life?" That's what they call me, man. What's going on? Da 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 da. We chilling. I'm on a basketball court one day, and I'm watching a pod get let out the chow hall, and that's where they used to have programs like services or whatnot. And I see dude walk by with his pod, or not walk by, but come out the chow hall door with the program group, and I'm like, "Yo, that's the guy that testified on me. That's the dude that they played the tape in the visits in the tray slot that I said if I ever seen him, it was over with." Because what happened when I went to when I went to jail and prison, that anger was still there, and I became. I'm not gonna say a monster, but I became. I handled myself, and I had respect, and I had influence, and it was what it was, and I had an edge to me now, because now I'm about 6 years behind the wall. Now I'm like 25, 26, and I've been waiting on this moment, praying on this, literally. And I look back, I see it's him again. I'm like, yo. And I always tell people, man, you got to be careful what you put out there in the air, man. And I'm not here to tell people what to believe in, but the book I read, it says life and death lie in the power of the tongue. And sure enough, I was like, man, if they pop this gate, I got to have them. I'm going to end them right here on this boulevard. I'm going to take his life. It's over with. And sure enough, the guard pops the gate where we're at. And he's not supposed to, because on a level 4, none of the dorms are supposed to be intermingling or moving together. It's controlled movement. But it's a newer guard. And sure enough, he pops the gate. And now my pod starts going out with their pod that's coming back from the program. And I'm like, yo, I'm about to wait till this dude walks past this gate. I already got my piece of steel on him. It's over with. I'm not even gonna turn him around. Like that's what it's gonna be. You got me sentenced to 144 years. He walks by the gate, he's chilling with his homeboys, he doesn't even know what's going on. And I ran down on him. Like I had like a slow jog like through everybody. And I grabbed him with my left hand on his shoulder, and I said I wasn't, but I spent them, because in my mind, and it sounds crazy now, and I've changed so much, but I wanted him to know It was me, because this was gonna happen. And when I spent them, I seen nothing but fear. It was just, it was like, it was just nothing. There was nothing for me to attack. And by this time, my reputation, I'm not a bully. Yeah, you did this, but I'm not even gonna find joy. I want you to suffer mentally. Like, I had this whole exchange in a point in a few seconds. And what was messed up, what was crazy was he was affiliated. He was in a gang. And so I got this dude that testified on me, and I could have easily ended him that way, or I could have easily told all his homies right there on the yard that this dude testified on me. Y'all didn't check his paperwork, and I could have got the party started right there. But something in me right there in that moment, I was just like, "You good?" And I walked away. I didn't say nothing. And the next day, because I was able to move a little bit on that compound, I was working in the kitchen at the time. I found out what dorm he was in. I delivered the tray cart there, and I walked outside, came to a cell, and knocked on it. Knocked on it. I was like, because I had a little pool. I was like, "Hey, bro," I said, "I'm about to get you moved down there by me." He's like, "What?" He's like, "Man, let's just do it now." He's like, if we gonna do it, let's just do it now, man. You playing games?" I said, "Man, chill, man." I said, "It's okay, bro." He said, "What?" I said, "I'm gonna holler at you next break." So they called yard, and I went out there the next yard, and there was a fence because it's still controlled movement. He hadn't got moved over there by me. I said, "Look, man, that was about 5, 6 years ago, bro." I said, "You're doing bad." He was doing. I mean, he had holes in his shoes. I could tell. Like, I said, "And I can end you." I said, "I find joy in that." I said, "I find joy in knowing that the whole time you doing your time, all I got to do is send the word out here, because that's what happens in prison." And he was like, "Bro, I'll do whatever." And I blackmailed him in the moment initially. I'm not gonna lie, like, because I just wanted, it's like that slow burn, and I finally got there. But I got him moved in the dorm with me, and we started talking more in some weird way. It was like a science experience for me, man. Like, honestly, because it was like I wanted him close enough that if I changed my mind the next day, I was gonna get him. And he couldn't check in, he couldn't duck the move, he couldn't do nothing because he would look crazy. But eventually, man, I just told him, I said, "Man, I forgive you. You may not understand it. It's for me." I said, "I'm going home." I said, "I don't know if you will." I said, "If I was you," I said, "I start moving right." And before I left, my homeboys used to clown me for this, but before I left, I made sure he had a job. I made sure he had commissary. And this is a dude, he testified on me, but in that moment, I started to think about the fact that if I didn't get in that car, he wouldn't have had nothing to testify on. So, yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's huge. I mean, really looking at yourself. I mean, that was a lot of shadow work you did, whether you knew it or not. I mean, that's a fucking lot, dude. And like, taking responsibility is the hardest thing to do. For like, you have to be introspective and look at yourself. You're like, I can blame this guy, but I was the guy that got in the car and turned on the car and fucking drove to the Chinese restaurant. That's fucking huge, dude. That's really huge.
How much of what happened when you got in trouble, like that whole thing where you end up at the Chinese restaurant, you're in the car, how much of that playing out did you already intuitively know was going to happen? Like, did you, like, "Oh, I didn't know you guys were actually going to go and steal money. Oh, I didn't know that you had a BB gun and you were going to make it look like you had a real gun"? Or did you know all of those kind of details at some level and just played along anyways?
I knew the BB gun for sure, because that was the only reason I agreed. I didn't know the location. I just knew we were
But
going.
it seems like it wouldn't have mattered unless they were like, "We're going to jump this orphanage for their money" or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was the BB gun. It being fake in my mind, fake. The definition of it, and then I learned that you can have your fingers pointed in the shape of. I think that was it. And like I said, it was the peer pressure, it was the alcohol, it was the anger. It was just, it was a lot. It was just a lot of stuff that had kind of culminated to that point, man. But yeah,
How much money did they end up making away with? Do you remember?
man, I think out of that whole situation that night, I think I might have got. And it's funny. I don't know if it's PTSD or I just can't remember. I blocked. I don't know, but it couldn't have been no more than $400 for me.
Right.
So maybe
Right, we're not talking like you walked out of there with like 50 grand or
no,
even anything that
no,
would have even.
no, and that's the thing, man. It's so crazy, and the cycle repeats itself. Like because now I'm advocating and I'm talking to mothers and young men, and they're fighting life sentences over nothing. I got a 16-year-old that's fighting a life sentence. Him and his homeboy robbed the pizza man. He was with him, and his homeboy did something and admitted it, but because he was there, standing right there, and it's just, man, yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things, huh? They're trying to use that as a deterrent. They like you can be the wrong place, wrong time, not even know it's going to happen. Um, yeah, dude, the wild dumb shit that we did. Like I remember we were with some homies, and we had a little homie that was with us, dude. He had I don't know how much details I'm going to give, but
Right.
he's a young man, and he wanted to be cool, so they fucking handed him a gun, and they were like, go over there and take everything out of that guy's wallet. Like, just go there and fucking rob that guy. And we were like, broad daylight in a park, and my buddy just went over there and and he looked little, dude. He was very sick. That's all I'll say. There was shit wrong with him, and he took everything. He took the dude's wallet. He took the dude's watch. He took, and we're just sitting there, and then we run. What do you do? Like, it wasn't my idea. We were with older dudes, and like, how many times we were in situations where we could have just done exactly what you did and went away forever. It's absolutely nuts.
Happens, man. There's a bunch of teenagers. Not my fault. Go ahead.
Oh, no, you're good, man. I was just going to ask because, so at this point, you've been in there for 6 years. I'm just trying to get in your mindset. You have 114 years supposedly over your head. You kind of, but then you mentioned later, you're like, I'm going to get out of here. So how much, so you had I guess you still had an ambition. You still had a dream that you were going to be able to get out because you're sitting there with 114 years over your head. That must feel like you're never going to get out, right?
Yeah. Well, the sentence it was 100.
It kept the hope alive. Yes.
Yeah, but the sentence read, because I always explain, but I mentioned 144 for the following reason. It was 144 years, all suspended, but 19. So I still had to do 85% of 19 years in Virginia. So I had a release date, but at 19 or being sentenced at 20, close to 2 decades, and you're getting sent to a level 4 maximum security.
That feels like forever.
Yeah, you don't even know if you're gonna, you know what I'm saying? I watched a buddy of mine, lose his life 2 days before he went home over a 5-inch TV, you know? But even, I say the whole number because a lot of people don't understand the way sentencing and the courts work, etc. Here I am. I've been on NBC or CBS, all this stuff, right? School on principal of the year. Like, I've been honored, got my passport off probation, but I still got 50 years good behavior over my head. No matter what I do. If I walk out here and I get into an argument with a guy and it just looks wrong to the police, and there you go. They can charge me and send me all, give me 50 years back plus. So yeah.
Okay, that's kind of well, this is nothing like that, but kind of like that. I had, when I was 19 years old, I had a wet and reckless in California, meaning it's like a baby DUI. So I had a little bit of booze in my system, but they wanted to throw the book at me. So I got a baby DUI, but technically, because I did all the shit, it's not on my record. But if I were to get another one, it would count as 2.
Yeah. Yeah. My message to everybody is know the law. If you're gonna do some illegal shit, or you're gonna do something that you think may be illegal, because ignorance is not proper defense, at least examine, know what's going on. I unfortunately, I know people that have gotten charges on certain things. It's legal in this state, and they drove across state lines, got pulled over. It's not legal there, and they're sitting in a cell. So it's important to be cognizant and aware and know what's going on. Definitely, man. But you don't think about that stuff when you're 19. You're not thinking about laws.
There's also the scariest part to me in all of this, because I don't want to get into it, in Minecraft I had legal problems within video game, but
Mhm.
like the weirdest thing is that it seems that at any point a cop could just get behind you and then you're going to jail. Like they like, and that this is like an honest thing. They can find some infraction, something that you did, so anything at all, unless every part of it's documented with multiple witnesses. So a lot of the time you're almost at the behest of the mood of whoever you're interacting with. And I guess the most obvious version of this is how cops have got total discretion that if they see you doing something a little bit wrong, they'll be like, look, we're going to let you off. You're not giving me a hard time. But that discretion can go away just instantly. They could just like a fly could, fly up their ass. And all of a sudden they're like, you know what? Never mind. Get back out of here. And now you're gone for who knows how long, even without anything necessarily wrong. So, I mean, it's like, yeah, obviously stay out of trouble. Like, don't do illegal things. But two, if you just run into the wrong person at the wrong time, you don't even have to be playing shotgun or like your homie doesn't have to have a BB gun. You could have anything go on, right?
We literally, and some people disagree, that's fine, but well, I'll just make it. We've watched innocent people get executed. Like on record, no DNA. The family of the victims, prosecutors, judge, everybody saying it's all about discretion, and that's why, like, I'm as an advocate, the system, it is what it is, but more it's people, man. We're flawed. Judge wakes up, his old lady slept with the neighbor. He's in there, and then how many times have we came out and you find out a judge or a cop is crooked, and then how many lives have been impacted directly and then indirectly, and then yeah, it's scary as hell. You don't even have to do nothing. You can literally just be living your life, and the cops can roll up, literally, and just make you and your family's life a nightmare, and you don't even know what's going on. Which is another reason why I run my mouth, man. It's better to be prepared and be at least a little bit educated, at least a little bit.
So as we're speaking, I had a couple more questions for you. One of them was you had mentioned you're like, so this guy was affiliated, and you're like, all I'd have to do is tell his gang, hey, this guy's a fucking rat.
Yeah.
Is that it's just like that, huh? Like,
Yeah, I mean, different states, different systems, different protocols. Some states they check your paperwork in the door, but I tell people where I was at, Commonwealth of Virginia. If anybody tells you anything different, I didn't see it. The 17 years they were not checking paperwork, and I mean, you'd see guys one day they were on the yard, affiliated, and then the next day all hell was breaking loose because guys, somebody would call and find out after the fact. So yeah, your reputation.
That's real frowned upon.
Yeah, without it.
Yeah.
Oh man, without a doubt. And your reputation in prison. I mean, that's all you really have at the end of the day. That is your currency when you're moving behind those walls. And depending on how your reputation is, you're either gonna suffer or you're gonna survive. Like for real.
Yeah. The other questions I was going to ask you are, so what were some life lessons that you learned? Because obviously, because obviously you turned your life around. Was that part of the thing there? Because it looked like that was kind of a big meeting that guy and finding a way to forgive him. That is a huge life lesson in general. But also, like, when did you say, this is it, I'm turning my shit around? Because you said you went from a 4 to a level 2 and then back to a 4.
Yeah.
Like, when were you just like, I'm fucking shooting straight? And like, was there a moment? Do you remember that moment at all?
That was the beginning. That was the moment when I realized inside of myself, like, the core of me was not some dude that needs to be in prison or wants to be for the rest of my life, right? Like, I need to at least fight for my chance. But it was over time. I went through losing my father while I was locked up, and then losing my grandmother was kind of like when the other shoe fell. And then watching some of my homeboys, go through some things. I had a buddy of mine walk into a cell and take his own life. Just couldn't deal with it, and it was just, there was a point where I went into, I want to survive, and then there was a point where I started fighting forward, and that's why I said I was given opportunities. I was running my mouth in there, doing programs. The counselors used to let me facilitate groups because they seen how guys responded to me. But I used to be in the law library helping guys with paperwork and, just learning stuff to try to teach them. And part of it was I wanted to help people. I wanted us to get the hell up out of there. Me and my homeboys, a lot of us that are still tight to this day. But the other part of it, I was trying to make whatever pod and dorm I was in peaceful and cool too. So the lessons I learned to that is I learned that the smartest man in the room controls it. Like at the end of the day, somebody is, smarter in that scenario. I survived prison and in some ways became good at it, not because I was some animal or, but it's just I was intelligent and I respected everybody and I found ways to support people in there and bridge the gap instead of beefing with everybody. And, you know, the other
Yeah.
lesson I learned was time. Time is the most priceless thing you ever have. And literally, like right now, we're spending an hour or whatever, right? We're not going to get that back, and that's it. So every moment out here, I work 7 days a week. I'm passionate about what I do, but I just try to make the most of my time when I'm not working and trying to help people. I'm with my family. I just want every moment to count, man, because there was plenty of time where I didn't have that opportunity.
Yeah, dude. I honestly, I think that was a big moment for you, obviously, because you said you were running up on that guy. You were ready to take his fucking life. Like, I've been in that situation.
I
I
can still
talked about it on
feel
the
it
show.
when I
There
talk
was a
about it.
guy that sexually assaulted a girlfriend of mine, and I was ready. I had the opportunity. I'd already had my son at the time. Like my son was like probably a few months old, and I was with this girl, and I was like, "Hey, go get the car ready, go get it started." And I was planning it. We were in a Safeway, and I picked up a wine bottle, and I saw the guy. I was just gonna bash his brains in and fucking stab him a bunch. And I decided, like in that moment, I'm looking over, I'm seeing her getting the car started. She's got my son in there, and I realized about myself that I wasn't a killer, that I wasn't going to do it. And at that time, when you're young and stupid and you're full of testosterone and adrenaline, you think you're capable of anything. And
Yeah.
you are in a lot of dumb ways. I could have easily made it was a split second decision, right? Where you like, this is what I am now, or I'm not.
Yeah.
And you made that decision too. You flipped him around and he was fucking scared and you were just like he was like, he's not worth it, because that would have changed the rest of your life. You would have been in there for the rest of your life. That one decision right there would have been done.
Yeah.
That's
Well, I'm
crazy.
curious, how close were you when you made that decision? Was this like you knew 100% you weren't going to do it, or were you like 60-40 on it and he just lucked out that you were in a good mood that day?
I don't even know if I was in a good mood. That I think a part of it, maybe there was still a little bit of fear right there because everybody was around. I think, but more importantly, I think as I was running down on them and I had a piece of steel in my hand, I think it was just I had enough time to think. And when I turned them around, when I seen them, that was satisfaction right there. But like I said, my whole point, I wanted to keep them around because there was still a part of me. I was like, man, I might wake up tomorrow, but the more I talked to him, the more I just felt sorry for him because he was suffering in there. And not that anybody can do good in prison, but he didn't have no support. Nobody. He didn't have anything. He was starving in there. There was nothing left to attack. But I'm glad I didn't because I know like there's hundreds of people, teenagers that are now 40, 50, 60 years old that they let anger, override them for 30 seconds when they're 18, 19. And I got friends of mine that are still on that camp, still on Sussex that with life sentences that can't get off. And we were young then, and they tell me, "Yo, we're glad you didn't do that. That would have been crazy. You would have still been here with us."
Yeah, man. That is you went in, and this is a terrible way to say it, but you went in honorably. And and there is something about you, Christopher, that is still honorable. And you were saying that, like, but before you left and your friends would clown on you, you made
Yeah.
sure that he had a job, you
Yeah.
took care of him. Like, you had that honor. You are an honorable person, Chris, and that's how you survived that.
Yeah, I think my mom, my grandma, certain people, like I said, they did. I always had people that they told me what to do, taught me what right was. I had people. My mother's upset. I made her move down here to Georgia with me. Like never even cuss, don't even, one of those type of women, but maybe those were those seeds that sprouted at the right time or something, because like I literally wake up every day and I have moments, at times, and I reflect, even if it's for 2 seconds, like, yo, I used to be waking up in a cell and I could have been there like for good. And that wasn't the only situation. There was some other close calls, and prison's prison. And when you're there long enough, you're gonna run into some moments.
I got one parting question, at least my last one for you, because I know we got to wrap up soon.
Yes, sir.
When you were in prison, did you find that the dreams you had were abnormally like vivid or surreal, or did you have did your dreams in prison differ from dreams out of prison?
I mean, I drink. Well, I didn't. I felt like I didn't dream before I went to prison, and then I went to prison, and for the moments when I was sober, my dreams were really super, vivid like they are now or whatnot. But when I was in prison, I remember my mother was at. She was like, "Yo, did you ever picture any of this?" And I didn't picture any of this per se, but I'm one of those people. Not the. I don't know, man. I don't. But like deja vu was a thing for me, my definition of it, and I'll have a dream to this day, that are vivid, and they started when I was in prison, where it's like I'll walk into a room and I'll feel it, and then I'll remember, I'll be like, yo, I had that dream or that thought or whatever when I was on Greensville, which is a prison. Or so I have weird moments like that, for sure.
I was going to ask, what were some life lessons that you learned there that you still carry with you today?
Man, the biggest life lesson of all, because people are like, how is it that you have peace? Like, you seem pretty chill, and it, like, I'm not perfect, I got to give that speech, but I do have peace. And man, I'm way better than I am, because even when I first came home, I came home right before the pandemic, which was a whole nother situation to walk out of the door after 17 years into the pandemic. But my cheat code is, I figured out that if you can identify like what you're supposed to learn, like in your most painful moments, and then figure out a way not just to learn it, but to share it with the world or people, a neighbor, a person, and give them some value, then you've given yourself value in that moment. You've kind of reversed the polarity and took something negative and brought it into something positive. So that's what I believe in, man. We're gonna go through our shit, find a lesson, and give yourself peace by giving somebody else what you learned.
Yeah. You, in a lot of your videos, you talk about the OGs, and sometimes when you do that, you put your glasses kind of crooked. I imagine there's some pretty wise people in there, some folks that almost like, probably philosophers, some dudes that are fucking really smart. They got caught up in some stuff. Is there anything that you learned from any of those OGs?
Yeah, man. I don't even know where to start. Like, so that character is based off a combination of like OGs that that I've been around. Some of the most intelligent, talented individuals I've ever met. Honestly, that just are in there for whatever, right? But I would say hands down, one of the greatest lessons I learned from the OG was just to respect life. Like, respect life. I remember this OG, his name was, he passed away now, but he walked me, we walked out into the dorm or in the pod, and because we shared a cell together, and they had called rec, and we walked out there, and he said, you know what, youngin? He said, you know what we all got in common in this place? And I said, what's that, man? He said, none of us respected life when we had the opportunity to. Otherwise, we'd never be in a place like this, so full of death. Because that's what it is, man. Prison is, it's like you're in a casket, you're buried alive, and you're clawing, you're screaming, and you're hoping somebody either digs you out or you figure out a way to get up out of there. But everybody doesn't make it out, So just to respect life. It's not long, it's short, for real.
It's short, man. And you kind of briefly touched on this already, but I was going to ask, do you still keep in touch with anyone?
Yeah, man. I just said, me and the wife just celebrated a 5-year vow renewal. and it was like prison reunion. You know, my guys came down from Virginia. In my nonprofit, a lot of my facilitators are guys that I was behind the wall with. But yeah, and then I got a few, a few brothers, unfortunately, that like Jefferson Ellie, fighting to get him home. But I talk to him all the time. We just got over like 183,000 signatures for his release, so we're just waiting for the governor to respond to that. But definitely in touch. And I just went back to St. Bride's Correctional Center, which is a prison I was at for like 6 years, and just went in there and spoke to the brothers. So I go back into the prisons too.
What is that like being on the other side, like visiting a prison? Is it?
Whew.
It's probably a little PTSD, huh? When you go in there and they close the door behind you. And
Man, it was so this was my first time going back into one of the prisons I was in, and I was going to speak. It was recovery month, so I was happy. I was getting ready to go in there and talk about recovery and substance abuse. Um, and I had my clothes on. I'm not in blue prison blues anymore. So I walk in there, and first person I seen that walked in right behind me was one of the counselors that told me I wouldn't be shit. And like I told you, I get it, but I just don't like when people run their stats down. But that day, I took about 5 minutes and I told them every single positive good thing that I've been doing since he's seen me. And not to be that way. They gave me some hassle. I walked in there. We did a good event, but it was with the guards staring at me, like standing in the back, and some of the same counselors that were there, even though I was in street clothes. When I was in prison, I used to be doing seminars and talking to the guys in the visitation room. So, like, imagine like you can't, if you're looking straight ahead, you don't see your clothes. I don't know if that makes sense. So there could be that second where you're like, you can feel like you're back in there again. But obviously, I could walk out. So, but it's mind over matter, and I do enjoy going back in there and delivering messages for sure.
I bet that counselor was surprised, huh? He was probably
Hey,
happy.
well, he asked for tips. He was like, "Man, I want to get into motivational speaking too, and all that." And it was a totally different, which I'm
Like,
glad.
You'll never amount to anything.
Right? I was like, I remember. I tell you, and it's not again not for the wrong reasons, man. I talk a lot of trash or whatever, but I remember every single person, that said that went out their way and was like, "Yo, you're not gonna do this." And oftentimes I see him pop up on my story or one of the social media platforms and all that. So, hey, man, no hard feelings. I'm here though.
Heck yeah, man. Yeah, I love that, dude. That's fucking awesome. How did you and your wife meet? So
Man,
you must have met her on the inside, or did you meet her on the outside?
no, we met while I was on the inside. I had started a nonprofit with a buddy of mine while I was on the inside and was facilitating classes and groups, and they were letting some of the family members of the guys come in. And my wife's homegirl came to a program where I was speaking. She was dating my, at the time, right hand or whatever, my buddy or whatever, and she was like, "I need you to talk to my homegirl," and I was like, "No, I'm locked up. I can't deal with this." I was just trying to get home at the time, but we ended up getting on the call. It was supposed to be for business because she was in nonprofit work and all that, and I guess it was for like the first 20 minutes, but then I knew she was going to be my wife in one phone call, and yeah.
I love that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I appreciated the conversation, and she asked if she could pray for me. So I appreciated that because my mama and my grandma only do that stuff. So, um, yeah, that was it. We ended up getting married in a visitation room, and I came home married with a mortgage after 17 years and no life experience and PTSD. So, yeah, it was a bumpy year one, but we just celebrated year five, and probably in the best place we've been, honestly.
That's awesome. Me and my wife just celebrated year 5.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a milestone, man. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, man. I feel like we've been married for like 50 years because she was visiting me in prison and she was going through her stuff, but we're here, man, on the other side. So definitely grateful.
That's awesome, dude. How was you briefly mentioned it, like you got the release during the COVID pandemic, things like that. What was it like adjust? Because I think in a normal situation, adjustments got to be hard. Like,
So I got locked up officially February 12th, 2003. I came home January 12th, 2020. So I was gone for essentially 17 years, 1 month shy. When I got locked up, the Nextel chirps were the phones, the yellow ones. There was no Facebook. I don't know. I think maybe MySpace, maybe, I don't know. No smartphones, people barely text. I come home, every smartphones, my wife shoves a Android in my hand 2 seconds out the door. I'm freaking out. Touchscreens, technology, and I'm trying to, readapt to the world. I got probation officer on my head, and I remember the tragedy with Kobe and his daughter and the passengers, like the helicopter crash. And then the next thing I remember was the pandemic. And I had just got a job. Like when I first came home, I got on the garbage truck, which I was proud of. I'm hanging on the back of the garbage truck. I didn't care. And I finally got off the garbage truck, got a job in the factory, and they just started laying everybody off. And the probation officer's like, "You got to keep a job. I don't have nothing to do with that. I don't care if the world's ending." And I'm like, I can't make something that's shutting me down keep me employed. But I ended up getting back on the garbage truck and working through the pandemic. But man, through that, like my mental health was jacked. Like there was no stability. I didn't have any mental health resources out here. Like the probation officer didn't give a damn. Like it was a whole situation, man, coming home and being in that pressure where everybody else is, off as well. And you're trying to find normalcy.
yeah, I knew a couple probation officers. It's tough for them too when they have so many people, and they're just assuming because man, I don't know what the recidivism rate is, but it's high, and so they probably like it's tough, dude, because like you said, he had no mercy on you. It's like one
They
of those
gotta be
things.
so jaded because they've heard
Yeah.
every excuse and I've just had a kid
Right.
born, and then they'll like end up doing some like dumb stuff. So at a certain point, I'm sure after like 5 or 6 years of being let down constantly, you just assume the worst in everyone always.
Yeah, I work with like a lot of organizations. We do programs, and we get every now and then we get the probation officers. Man, you got some good ones out there, but you got people that are burnt out, and like you said, man, jaded. Over 65% of people that come home from prison reoffend and go back within 3 years. So they see a lot, but still, it was the pandemic, and his job was getting ready to get shut down. And he was just like, "Hey," but got through it somehow. I mean, it was definitely like I think coming home year one was rougher than my entire prison sentence, which is crazy.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what your first job was, and that actually sounds like fun. I almost was a garbage truck driver. That actually kind of sounded like a good time.
Yeah, I was on the back of the truck. I didn't get to drive yet. Eventually, I got but being a garbage man, dumping trash during the pandemic, it was scary because I thought I was gonna like bring the virus home to my family, and I was always like fearful of that. But man, we got paid well, man, and everybody showed us love out there. They were showing the garbage man love out there. I ain't gonna lie, we were doing good. We got hazard pay, tips, everything. So, hey, man, shout out to Waste Management.
Tell you what, dude, my little one, he's way more excited to see the garbage man than me when I get off of work. Like,
You don't want to mess with a garbage man. Like the only good thing that comes out of it is they don't pick up your garbage now. Like
Right.
It's like lose. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, man. Shout out to the garbage man. No, that was in some weird way, man. I missed that job. I don't want to go back, but it was to come home from prison and kind of just be hanging off the back of a truck and you're in the air. Hey, man, it was way better than being inside for sure.
Mhm.
dude, I bet. Yeah, I love that, man. Yeah, so we're gonna start wrapping up here pretty soon. What do you think? What's some advice you can give to our young man listening?
So
We have
someone's
kind of
going
a
to go
big,
to rob a Chinese restaurant tonight. Like what kind of advice?
man.
Other than don't do it, which is the obvious one.
Right, don't do it. There's no reset button. This is not Call of Duty. You will not get respawned. And 9 times out of 10, if you go to prison with your homeboys and they offer him time and you, and say he can go home if they get you, he's gonna get you. That's what's gonna happen. And also, yo, don't go to prison. That's it. There's nothing. This is what I really want to say because I'm really get tired of this. There's a lot of content creators, and part of my reputation out there is what it is. Stop. I hate when they water down prison. Like for anybody, any of my young people that's seeing them in there doing TikToks, dancing, eating noodles. I don't care how fun they make it look.
There's a lot of cooking videos now.
Yeah,
TikTok,
as soon as they shut the video off from recording, they're looking over their shoulder for guards and other people that's trying to rob them for their phone. And I don't care how good it looks in there. Yo, that's horrible, man. And in most prisons, just so you know, to all my young gangsters, all there's a no hands rule. I travel different states. I'm on different calls with coalitions, nonprofits, organizations, but they are taking people's lives in there, and they don't fight fair. And that's my story. Don't go to prison, man. Stay free. Stay free where you can enjoy life and eat food and share your bed with somebody, and you know what I'm saying. Like enjoy life. That's it.
yeah, man. And
I want to
what
sneak
your
one
OG
other one in
said.
too. Just would are you familiar with 60 Days In?
Yeah, I don't watch it, but I am familiar. I don't.
What do you think about that as a premise, and would you ever do something like that?
Everybody asked me, and Netflix just. I did a call with Netflix for what's this Squid Games season 2. So that would be kind of similar because it's a dorm site setting. But 60 Days In, I don't think my mind. I think I'm one of those guys. If I went back, I would lose my mind, right? And that jail, like when they were down here in Fulton County, like if anybody watched that episode, like it goes down in Fulton County. Like all them guys didn't make it through that. Well, they made it, but they didn't make it through the season. So no, but hey, if somebody wants to cut me a check big enough, I can help some people and help the family. I might endure 60 days because I survived. I
I
survived
think you get way
17.
more money potentially from Squid Games than you ever would from 60 Days In.
Well, Squid Games is I think the pot is I don't know what is it for or whatever.
There's no pot in 60 Days In out of any
Yeah, it's
season
just
I've ever seen. There's
well,
no pot.
I'd be fighting for endorsements, trying to get
Yeah.
spots on there and say something. But yeah, man, no, that's traumatizing, man.
And then I guess I was going to ask you. I mean, because those were some very formative years in your life, man. That was you becoming a man inside of there. Do you have any good memories?
Yeah, man. I mean, yeah, you have to find a way to survive. But I'd say like not necessarily just speaking on memories. All of my family are my brothers and their wives and kid. Like we're literally at the vow renewal was like the Goodfellas. And one of my right hand that was in prison with me that's 6'4", 300 pounds and never left my side. He's up there saying, if anybody says anybody with your wife, I'm gonna take that. And I'm like, oh, and but it's it's the memories, but more importantly, it was the brotherhood, man. A lot of us came home, we grew up, we're fathers, we're businessmen, we're community leaders. Like it's a real cool experience to not be in there and be human and know that we really were better than that environment, and we're proving that.
In a lot of ways, it was almost maybe like serving, being overseas in the military or something, doing there's probably some weird correlations there.
Well, yeah, those are
Like
my. When I say my brothers, these are the brothers that when it went down, these are some of the same guys. We were back to back, and us versus them, and because that's what happens in prison.
And then this is just, I guess, is a lighthearted question. Did you have any good food in there? Were there any, did you guys make any weird burritos, smashing up Doritos?
Yeah, we're getting ready. Me and a few buddies of mine, we're getting ready to do like a cook off. Some content creators. They got bigger platforms.
Awesome.
Yeah, bigger platforms. Shout out to my two guys, Jesse Crossan and White George, man. But yeah, we're getting ready to do a cook off. I mean, food is comfort in there, and hey, you take two noodles and whatever and dress them up. But for me, I know like the moments where it was all the memory, some of the memories you were talking about and bringing food was when we used to break bread. You know, what holidays were depressing and shit, but it might be 12 of us at a table and we all made a big gigantic nacho and whatever it is, and that's the best we can do. But like you said, it's similar to being in the trenches at war and you can't be home with your family and you do what you do what you got, and those are the memories. So yeah.
That's awesome, man. And how about spirituality in there? Did you still talk to God? Do you? I mean, I don't know anything about your
Yeah,
your religious anything like that. But is there
man.
any comfort there?
uh I mean, I knew God, like most of us, introduced to church and all that stuff, and then I don't know, grew up getting angry at the church, and then trying to find God when I was on my way to prison, getting ready to get sentenced. But while I was in prison, I was angry. I used to curse God, and I don't know, I don't dress nothing up, and in that note, I guess I never stopped believing, but it wasn't until they had this program called Kairos in there, and it was May 12th, 2012, and I signed up for it because they gave you free cookies. That's all I knew. You get there and you go there 3 days, you eat free cookies, and go to the visitation room, and I met this old white dude named Pastor Jeff. Man, freaking like Pastor Jeff was like freaking like 70 at the time. I don't know, but he was cool. Like he's from Tennessee. He talked. I don't know, right? And he just pulled up on me in this Kairos program. He said, "Man, you don't have to be so angry, man." He's like, "I know," and he just started like telling me about me. But he's saying he's like, "God's telling me to tell you," and I'm like, "What the hell?" I'm in prison. I just start.
Reading your mail, man. That's
He's
what they
read.
call it.
He's
Yeah.
reading my mail, and I
Yeah.
start crying and sobbing, and he hugs me, like a father would or something in there. And this old white dude, man, and I'm like, "I'm mess up your suit." He's like, "I don't care. You know Jesus loves you." And I think I had a moment. I know I had a moment because yeah, I've been with the Lord since, and if not for my spirituality, I wouldn't have made it out either. Because there was some dark moments where you don't have anything, and I did to that also. I did over three years in solitary confinement, and you don't have nothing but God. They let you get either a Bible, Quran, or a Torah, and some writing paper, like stuff to write letters and your hygiene. That's it. So
That's intense, man. Well, it's probably harder in there than being with the rest of everybody else, huh?
well, I mean, solitary confinement is inhumane. But I've known, well, especially back then before they changed certain rules. I had knew brothers that had been back there for 10 years because they didn't cut their hair, stuff like that. But for me, there was a time where I would go back to the hole just to get a break, just so I could get privacy, and that's how distorted my mindset was. I'd rather get into a smaller space of confinement, a cell where it's 23 and 1 versus trying to stay in a more open environment where I'd have more, opportunity to live. But I couldn't run away, and oftentimes the whole, that was the escape. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing this with us, man. This was an awesome interview. Um, do you? Why don't you tell our audience one more time? What's the best way? What's the best place that they can support you? What's the best way? Do you have a website? Where can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can check me out at Christopher Life Willers on all social media platforms, just like it says up on the screen. And aside from that, you can check out my nonprofit. It's thelifeunit.org. And also, on top of that, outreach coordinator for Believe Detox Center. So I always got to say, if you need help with substance abuse, etc., please message me. You can email me at CL Willers, WILLARS, at Gmail. I just do my personal one out there because I'm always down to connect.
I love that, man. That's awesome. Thomas, is there anything you want to share, buddy?
I mean, the big one is going to be the comic book I've been working on with Donut. We've been working on for the last 2 years, and it's at illuminaticomic.com, and it breaks down the entire history of the Bavarian Illuminati from the 1700s all the way to modern day. We even touch on like the modern stuff, like P. Diddy makes an appearance in there, and Epstein and Beyonce and Wu-Tang and all that. So we don't shy away from the modern version, but we also rewind it all the way back and give you all the historical basis, more so than even if you went on TikTok or YouTube and you followed the person that has like the 2 million followers and views on Illuminati, you'll be more of an expert than that person after you read this pamphlet, because we've done all the real research, like years of research, all the books have been written on it, and we've distilled it in. And if you've read any of the Paranoid American comics we've done on this, you already know that it's going to be a banger, followed by the Bigfoot one I've been working on with you, Nate.
Heck yeah, dude. I love it. And right down there, the ticker there, thosebigfootexist.com. Everyone go over there and sign up.
Man.
And, Christopher, we used to ask this question all the time, and then we always kind of forget. So this is your first time on here. Do you have a favorite cryptid? So, like, type of monster, whatever it is.
Are there prison cryptids? Are there any like mythological creatures?
Oh, dude, that's a great question, Thomas.
There's none in that sense, but there's some prison cryptids, but no, none in that sense. But man, favorite cryptid. I used to read like growing up reading Goosebumps, and then I feel like I've had moments, man, paranormal moments. People can't take back your experience, and I know I was not under the I was not intoxicated or anything, but favorite cryptid. I'm a ghost guy, but I would say the chupacabra. My family, my father's side of the family, that adopted me, they're from Eagle Pass, and it's right on the border. It's the river and in Mexico. And I remember going down there, and it'd be like 10 o'clock at night. They let me stay up, and they got a campfire going, and my dad and his brothers, and they'd be out there telling stories and shit. And I still remember those stories to this day. Whether they, but the way they told them, it was like, holy shit. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to have you back on, man. I want to hear some ghost stories from the inside, dude. I bet there's some ghost stories.
I've got some stories, man. I got some stories about me. I got my mother and my Aunt Sheila and my grandmother that are unique, man. I don't know. It's weird, but it's life. I enjoy the experience.
Well, thank you very much, brother. We appreciate your time.
Yes, sir, man. Thank you guys for having me. Amazing platform, amazing questions. I really appreciate y'all, man.
It was nice meeting you, man.
Yeah, nice meeting you as well.
Easy to talk to.
Yeah, this is like an easy flowing conversation, indeed.
Awesome, brother.
All right.
God bless you, and continue to do the awesome work that you do, man. I'm praying for you, and I hope that you have lots of blessings in your life, and you and your wife have a happy union, and have some babies, dude. Have some babies.
We'll work on that. We're gonna work on that. Did you hear that? No, just playing. No, I'm playing. No, for sure, man. Thank y'all, man, and vice versa, man. God bless y'all, man, and I appreciate y'all. And everybody, tune in. Make sure you're tuning into the Reality Czars for real.
All right. Cheers, everyone.
All right. Peace. All right.